situations still mess with you so much, even after so long? What if I told you that there are 6 emotional childhood wounds that continue to hurt within you, even now 60 or more? It may seem impossible, but these invisible marks of the past still control many of your reactions, fears, and even how you relate to people. In this video, I will reveal these 6 emotional wounds that most people carry since childhood, without even realizing that they are still open and bleeding inside. Most importantly, I will show you how to identify each of them in your life, and especially, how to start healing these pains once and for all. If you do not learn about these wounds now, they will continue to sabotage their peace, their relationships, and their happiness for the rest of their lives. But if you stay with me until the end, you will find the secret to finally break free of these invisible currents that bind you to the past. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to find out can completely change the way you see your own story. First wound, the rejection that still burns. The first emotional wound that many carry since childhood is rejection. This is one of the deepest pains that exist, and it happens when we feel rejected, abandoned, or not accepted by important people in our lives. It may have been a father who showed no love, a mother who always compared you with other children, or even schoolmates who excluded you from the jokes. The problem is that this wound does not disappear over time. It only hides deep, deep in our soul. When you carry this wound of rejection, it manifests itself in many ways in your adult life. You can feel insecure in relationships, always expecting people to abandon you. Or it may be that you move away from people before they have a chance to reject you. Some develop an excessive need to please others, doing everything not to be rejected again. Others become very critical and demanding people, rejecting others before they are rejected. To heal this wound, the first step is to recognize that it exists. Observe your relationships and reactions. Are you afraid of being abandoned? Do you move away from people when they start to approach? Do you do everything to please others, even when it hurts you? If the answer is yes, then you need to start working this wound from rejection. Start by practicing self-love. Every day, look in the mirror and tell yourself that you are worthy of love and acceptance. Remember that the rejection you felt in the past does not define who you are today. You are a valuable person and deserve to be loved exactly as it is. Second wound, the abandonment that haunts. The second emotional wound is abandonment, which is different from rejection. As long as the rejection is about not being accepted, the abandonment is about being left behind. This wound forms when we feel abandoned by people who should be present in our lives. It may have been a father who left, a mother who was always absent from work, or even grandparents who promised to always be there but left too early. Abandonment creates a sense of deep emptiness, as if something essential was missing inside you. When you carry this wound of abandonment, it profoundly affects your ability to trust people. You can become very dependent on others, always afraid they will leave. Or it may happen the opposite. You become a very independent person who doesn't let anyone get close so as not to risk being abandoned again. Some people develop a constant need to be in relationships, jumping from one person to another because they can't stand being alone. Others are completely isolated, preferring loneliness to the possibility of suffering another abandonment. To heal this wound of abandonment, you need to learn to be well with yourself. Start by spending time alone every day, not because you have no one, but because you choose to be with the most important person of your life, yourself. Practice activities that give you pleasure, and you can do it yourself. Read a book, take care of plants, walk. Gradually, you will realize that being alone is not synonymous with being abandoned. In fact, when you learn to be enough, relationships become a choice, not a desperate need. Remember, people who abandoned you in the past did it by your own limitations. not because you were not worthy of staying. Third wound, the humiliation that does not heal. The third emotional wound is humiliation, one of the most painful because it directly attacks our dignity and self-esteem. This wound forms when we were humiliated, ridiculed, or embarrassed, especially in front of other people. It may have been a teacher who ridiculed you in front of the class, parents who embarrassed you in the face of visits, or colleagues who made jokes about you. Humiliation leaves a deep mark because it attacks our basic need to be respected and treated with dignity. When you carry this wound from humiliation, it can manifest itself in many destructive ways. You can become a very shy person, always afraid to do something wrong and be ridiculed again. Or you may develop an excessive need for being perfect because you believe that if you do not make mistakes, you will not be humiliated. Some people become very aggressive, attacking others before they are attacked. Others develop a low self-esteem so deep that they believe they deserve to be treated badly. To heal this wound of humiliation, you need to rebuild your dignity and self-esteem. Start by remembering that you are a human being worthy of respect, regardless of the mistakes you may have made in the past. Practice self-pity. Treat the same kindness that would treat a dear friend. When you make a mistake, don't attack with hard words, but forgive yourself and learn from the experience. Surround yourself with people who respect you and treat you well. If someone humiliates you, do not accept. Defend itself firmly, but without aggressiveness. Remember, no one has the right to humiliate you, and you have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. Fourth wound, the betrayal that erodes confidence. The fourth emotional wound is betrayal, which happens when people we trusted broke this confidence in a painful way. It may have been a father who promised something and never fulfilled, a mother who told her secrets to other people, or a friend who has deeply disappointed you. Betrayal is especially painful because it breaks up our ability to trust, which is critical to building healthy relationships. When you carry this wound from betrayal, it dramatically affects your ability to connect with people. You can become very suspicious, always expecting people to disappoint you. Or you can develop an excessive need to control everything and everyone around you because you believe that only then will not be betrayed again. Some people become very jealous and possessive in relationships. Others prefer not to be deeply involved with anyone, always keeping an emotional distance to protect themselves. To heal this wound from betrayal, you need to learn to trust again, but intelligently. Start by trusting small things and with people who have already shown to be reliable. Do not deliver all your confidence at once, but gradually build it as people show that they deserve it. Learn to forgive, not to benefit those who cheated on you, but to break free from the weight of the hurt. Remember that not all people are equal to those who have betrayed you in the past. There are good people in the world, and you deserve to have relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Before we continue with two more important wounds, if this video is helping you better understand your emotional wounds, be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell of notifications so as not to lose any content that can transform your life. And tell me in the comments where you are watching this video. I want to know where our dear followers are. Fifth wound, the injustice that revolts. The fifth emotional wound is injustice, which forms when we experience or witness deeply unfair situations in childhood. It may have been guilty of something you have not done, seeing a brother being unfairly favored, or witnessing someone you loved being treated cruelly without deserving. Injustice creates a deep revolt within us and a feeling that the world is not a safe or fair place. When you carry this wound of injustice, it can manifest itself in many ways in your adult life. You can become a very rigid and inflexible person, always struggling to make everything perfectly fair. Or you can develop constant anger against the world, feeling that life is unfair to you. Some people become very critical and judging, always pointing out what is wrong in others. Others develop an excessive need to be recognized and valued to compensate for the injustices of the past. To heal this injury to injustice, you need to learn to accept that life is not always fair, but that does not mean that you must conform to injustice. Start by practicing flexibility and compassion. Not everything needs to be perfect or exactly as you would like. Learn to choose your battles. Fight against the injustices that really matter, but do not wear out with minor imperfections. Practice the gratitude for the good things you have in life, even recognizing that not everything is perfect. Remember that you have the power to create more justice and kindness in the world through your own actions. Sixth wound, the falsehood that confuses. The sixth and last emotional wound is falsehood, which forms when we were created in an environment where people were not authentic or true. It may have been parents who said one thing and did another, family members who pretended to be happy when they were suffering, or an environment where you couldn't be yourself. Falsehood creates a deep confusion about who we really are and what is real or not. When you carry this wound of falsehood, it affects your ability to be authentic and to recognize authenticity in others. You can become a person who is always playing a role, never showing who he really is. Or you can develop excessive distrust of people, always thinking they are lying or pretending. Some people become very perfectionist, trying to create a perfect image of themselves. Others get lost, not knowing who really are under all the masks they have learned to wear. To cure this wound of falsehood, you need to learn to be authentic and true to yourself. Start by identifying your true emotions and feelings, even when they are not beautiful or acceptable. Practice to express your true thoughts and opinions, starting with trusted people. Do not be afraid to show your imperfections and vulnerabilities, because that is what makes you human and real. Learn to recognize and value authenticity in other people, and move away from those who are always pretending to be something they are not. Remember that being true is much more liberating than living a life of lies and falsehoods. Seventh wound, the loneliness that hurts. The seventh emotional wound is deep loneliness, which forms when we feel isolated and misunderstood since childhood. It may have been to grow in a family where no one really understood you, being an introspective child in a very agitated environment, or simply feeling different from others. Emotional loneliness is different from being physically alone. It is the feeling that no one really knows or understands you. When you carry this wound from loneliness, it can manifest itself in many destructive ways. You can become a very isolated person, preferring to be alone, trying to connect with others. Or it may develop a desperate need for attention and validation, doing anything to feel seen and understood. Some people become very shy and withdrawn, believing that they will never be understood. Others become very talkative and expansive, trying to compensate for inner loneliness with outer noise. To cure this wound from loneliness, you need to learn to truly connect with other people, but first, you must connect with yourself. Start by spending a quality time with yourself, not for loneliness, but by choice. Know your own thoughts, feelings, and desires. Then look for people who share your interests and values. Don't be afraid to open and show who you really are. Practice the active listening to others, and you will find that when you really listen to people, they also listen to you. Remember that the true human connection is possible, and you deserve to have people in your life who understand and value you. Eighth wound, the insecurity that paralyzes. The eighth emotional wound is deep insecurity, which forms when we grew up in an environment where our self-esteem has never been properly built. It may have been parents who always criticized and never praised, constantly compared to others, or never receiving recognition for their efforts. Insecurity creates a constant feeling of not being good enough, regardless of what you get in life. When you carry this wound of insecurity, it sabots virtually every area of your life. You can avoid taking risks or trying new things because you are afraid to fail. Or it may develop an excessive need for approval of others, always seeking external validation. Some people become very competitive, constantly trying to prove that they are good enough. Others easily give up on their dreams because they believe they are unable to realize them. To heal this wound of insecurity, you need to rebuild your self-esteem from scratch. Start by making a list of all your qualities, achievements, and good things you have done in life. Celebrate your small daily victories, however small. Stop comparing yourself with others and start to compete with yourself only yesterday. Surround yourself with people who support you and believe in you. Challenge yourself to do new things, starting with small steps. Remember that you are capable of much more than you think, and that insecurity is just a lie that your mind has used to believe. Ninth injured, the anger that consumes. The ninth emotional wound is the unused anger which forms when we experience situations that left us deeply annoyed or angry, but we could never express this anger in a healthy way. It may have been domestic violence, abuse, neglect, or simply grow in an environment where negative feelings were not allowed. Repressed anger turns into a poison that erodes our inner peace. When you carry this wound of unused anger, it can explode in the most inappropriate moments or manifest as a constant irritation. You can become a very explosive person, losing control for little things, or it may develop a passive ages, hurting others indirectly. Some people become very bitter and resentful, always seeing the negative side of things. Others develop health problems because repressed anger affects the physical body. To heal this wound of anger, you need to learn to process and express this emotion in a healthy way. Beginning recognizing that feeling anger is normal and human, the problem is when it is repressed or expressed destructively. Practice physical exercises to release the accumulated tension. Write about your feelings. Shout in a place where no one can hear you or beat a pillow. Learn breathing techniques to calm down when you feel the anger rising. If necessary, seek professional help to process old trauma. Remember that release healthy anger is essential to your inner peace and well-being. Holy wound, the fear that imprisons. The 10th and last emotional wound is the paralyzing fear, which forms when we experience situations that have made us deeply frightened or anxious in childhood. It may have been violence, accidents, traumatic losses, or simply grow in a very unstable and unpredictable environment. Chronic fear creates a constant sense of danger, even when there is nothing to fear. When you carry this wound of fear, it dramatically limits your ability to live fully. You can avoid new or challenging situations, always imagining the worst possible scenario. Or it may develop widespread anxiety, constantly worrying about things that may not even happen. Some people become very controlling, trying to control everything around them to feel safe. Others become very dependent on others because they are afraid to face life alone. To heal this wound from fear, you need to learn to distinguish between real fears and imaginary fears. Start by facing small fears every day, proving to yourself that you are braver than you think. Practice relaxation and mindfulness techniques to soothe your anxious mind. Surround yourself with people who give you security and confidence. Remember that you have already survived many difficult situations in your life, and this proves that you are strong and resilient. Fear may be a useful counselor, but it should not be your commander. We have reached the end of this journey of self, knowledge, and emotional healing. These 10 emotional wounds we explore today may seem heavy, but recognizing them is the first step in breaking free from them. Remember that you spent decades carrying these pains, So healing is also a process that takes time. Be patient with yourself and celebrate every little progress. You have the power to rewrite your emotional story. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to heal your wounds and live a fuller and happier life. Start today, choosing one of the wounds that caught the most attention and working on it. Your future version will thank you for having the courage to look inside and start this healing process. Now I want to know about you. Which of these emotional wounds has touched you the most? Which do you recognize most in your own life? Share in the comments, because your experience can help other people who are going through the same situation. And if this video has helped you in any way, share it with someone you know you need to hear these words.